March 1944. Over Germany, the sky trembles with a deep, rolling growl. Not thunder from a storm, but from engines. German troops look up and whisper one word: Donnerschlag, Thunderclap. The fighter they once mocked as a flying milk bottle now owns the heavens, and soon it will bring that thunder down to earth. This is how the P-47 Thunderbolt became the Luftwaffe's nightmare. By early 1944, the Republic P-47 had changed. No longer sluggish, no longer short-legged. The new P-47D-22, with its massive paddle blade propeller, climbed like a beast unleashed. Pilots who once cursed its weight now praise its strength. Use your power, Colonel Hub Zemke told his men. Dive like a hammer, climb like a rocket, and never, ever stop firing. Each aircraft carried 3,400 rounds of .50 caliber ammunition, enough to pour half a minute of uninterrupted hellfire onto anything that crossed its path. And above 30,000 feet, the big double wasp engine still roared with full strength while German fighters gasped for air. The Hunter had become the storm. On March 6, 1944, the Luftwaffe learned what that meant. As hundreds of American bombers streaked toward Berlin, P-47s flew cover high above. Major Gunther Rall, one of Germany's top aces, remembered the moment the Thunderbolts appeared out of the sun. We laughed when we saw their shapes, until they fell upon us like an avalanche. In 30 seconds, 3 FW-190s were gone, shredded by converging streams of .50 caliber fire. The surviving German pilots dove for cloud cover, but the Jug could dive faster. It fell like a meteor, then climbed again before the enemy could blink. To the men below, the sound of those engines was unmistakable, a low, continuous growl that rolled across the sky like thunder itself. Donnerschlag. From that day forward, the German Air Force would never again control the skies over Europe. The Jug's biggest weakness, its short range, was vanishing. New 108-gallon wing tanks and 75-gallon belly tanks extended its reach past 1,000 miles. P-47s could now escort bombers deep into Germany, trading fuel tanks for firepower at the first sign of combat. Their new mission was simple: crush the Luftwaffe. Day after day, the Thunderbolts scoured the sky. Over Hanover, over Frankfurt, over Berlin itself. When fuel or ammunition ran low, new squadrons replaced them in seamless waves. To German pilots, it felt endless. They were everywhere, one veteran recalled. You could not climb above them. You could not dive beneath them. They ruled every altitude. The Luftwaffe's elite was dying faster than it could be replaced. Fuel was scarce, spare parts rarer still. Every victory the Germans claimed now cost them 3 or 4 aircraft in return. As American bomber formations struck deeper into Europe, planners realized the P-47 could do more than guard the skies. It could destroy the enemy's ability to fight at all. The Jug's 8 heavy machine guns tore through locomotives, trucks, and tanks as easily as fighters. Each armor-piercing incendiary round punched through steel, then ignited into molten fury. In spring 1944, the U.S. 9th Air Force began converting entire groups of Thunderbolts into fighter bombers. The pilots called it going downstairs. The D-25 model could carry 2 1,000-pound bombs and a 500-pounder under the fuselage, a payload equal to early war medium bombers. Later variants mounted 10 5-inch rockets, each with the punch of a 105mm artillery shell. The sky itself had become artillery. June 6, 1944. D-Day. As the Allied Armada crossed the Channel, more than 500 P-47s swept the skies above Normandy. At dawn, German fighters tried to reach the beaches. They never made it. Oberleutnant Wolfgang Fischer, one of the few who survived, later recalled, "The sky belonged to them. We climbed, but they were already there, at every height from the sea to the stratosphere. We were slaughtered. By mid-morning, the Luftwaffe over Normandy had ceased to exist. The Thunderbolt had claimed the air, and now they turned their fury downward. Convoys, bridges, gun emplacements, nothing was safe. Columns of trucks simply vanished under waves of gunfire. Within days, the German front was paralyzed. The ground troops gave them a new name, J-bows fighter bombers. But to those below, they were something worse, flying artillery. Throughout June and July 1944, the 9th Air Force's P-47s unleashed devastation across northern France. Locomotives exploded into showers of steel. Fuel depots burned for days. Columns of tanks melted under rocket and bomb strikes. In just 1 month, Thunderbolts destroyed over 650 locomotives, nearly 4,000 trucks, and more than 500 armored vehicles. German officers watching their shattered supply lines sent desperate reports to Berlin. Movement by day, one wrote, is suicide. Hans von Luck, a panzer commander, described the attacks. They came in so low you could see their faces. Rockets screamed, guns hammered. In seconds, a column of 20 vehicles became wreckage. The effect on the men was devastating. The Luftwaffe had once laughed at the jug. Now the Wehrmacht feared it more than tanks. Even heavy anti-aircraft guns could not stop them. The feared German 88s, precise and deadly, found that hitting a diving Thunderbolt was nearly impossible. Too fast, too strong, too well-armored. A 3/8-inch steel plate shielded the pilot's back. Half-inch bulletproof glass guarded the front. Vital components were encased in armor. Damage that would have shredded a Spitfire barely slowed a jug. When they did take hits, crews patched them with sheet metal, new tires, and a quick coat of olive paint. The next morning, those same aircraft were back in the air. 4 German soldiers on the ground. It was relentless, like fighting a storm that never ended. By August, the psychological toll was visible. German pilots spoke of jabber fever, fighter-bomber fever, a trembling panic that struck before missions. Ground troops froze at the sound of approaching engines, diving for cover even when the sky was empty. The roar of the P-47's propellers, that rolling thunder, became the sound of dread. One captured soldier admitted, "You could feel them before you heard them." The ground shook. Then came the rockets, the fire, the noise. It was hell from above. American pilots began to sense the shift. For the first time, they held not just technical superiority, but psychological dominance. The Luftwaffe was cracking, and everyone knew it. Behind every Thunderbolt was a miracle of production. Factories in New York and Indiana built one P-47 every hour, day and night. By the end of 1944, Republic Aviation had produced over 15,000 of them. Each required 65,000 individual parts, 8 miles of wiring, and nearly 2,000 pounds of aluminum. Ammunition plants turn out 30 million rounds of .50 caliber bullets per month. Fuel tankers crossed the Atlantic by the hundreds, feeding a war that seemed powered by endless energy. Major George Brooking of the 365th Fighter Group saw it firsthand during Operation Bodenplatte, the Luftwaffe's last desperate attack on January 1st, 1945. German fighters destroyed 22 Thunderbolts on the ground. A captured pilot sneered, "What do you think of that?" Brooking pointed to the flight line. "By tomorrow," he said, "we'll have 40 new ones. How long will it take you to replace your pilots?" He was right. Within 48 hours, fresh jugs filled the runway. The Luftwaffe, by then, could barely refuel what was left of its squadrons. By the winter of 1944-45, the Luftwaffe existed mostly on paper. Fuel shortages grounded entire units. Young, under-trained pilots faced veterans flying machines that shrugged off everything they could throw. Thunderbolt formations roamed from the Rhine to the Ruhr, strafing anything that moved. Trains, trucks, tanks, even horse-drawn carts. The numbers were staggering. Over 3,000 German aircraft destroyed in the air, another 3,000 on the ground, tens of thousands of vehicles obliterated. In 1 year, the P-47 had gone from ridicule to total dominance. Even the Germans admitted it. Captured ace Joseph Priller, the same man who once called the Jug a pregnant cow, later told interrogators, "It is the best fighter-bomber of the war. Its guns never jam, its armor never fails, and its pilots are trained like instructors. We laughed once. We don't laugh now." By spring 1945, the road to Berlin was littered with burned wrecks and blackened rail lines, all courtesy of the Thunderbolt. When Allied troops crossed the Rhine, P-47s roared overhead in endless waves, strafing retreating convoys and pounding bridges. The Luftwaffe tried one last counterattack and failed utterly. The thunder had spoken. In just 2 years, the flying milk bottle had become the most feared weapon in the European sky. And as the war moved toward its final act, the Jug would take its thunder to the Pacific, to the long blue reaches where Japanese pilots would learn the same lesson the Germans had. You can't kill a thunderstorm. The Thunderbolt goes to the Pacific, over the jungles of New Guinea and the islands of Japan. It will prove that the Jug's power knows no ocean. And when the first jets appear, the P-47 will meet them head-on. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe for Part 4, The Thunder and the Storm, the P-47's final triumph and legacy. Because the story of this unbreakable machine isn't over yet.